Okay, we're looking at 30 types in 30 days, and it's day 20. I think we need to focus on the plagues of Egypt right now. So let's look at Exodus chapter 7 through 12. 10 plagues in all, and God is going to deal very harshly with Egypt through Moses, the Savior, as it were. Moses is the Savior, and God has sent him to Egypt to free his people. So Moses gets there, and he winds up being the one who God works through to bring these terrible plagues. And the plagues start with the turning of water into blood, the turning of the very lifeblood, as it were, of Egypt, which is the Nile, the turning of that beautiful river into blood so that it becomes something that no one can use, no one can drink, everyone is threatened with death. And then we finally get up through plagues like lice, and flies, and go through frogs, of course, and go through plagues on cattle, boils on everything, people and cattle, and disease, and the locusts that come. And we finally wind up with a plague of darkness in the land, complete darkness for 3 full days, followed by the death of the firstborn, which is eventually what leads to the release of the captives from Egypt. You can probably hear the Christ story coming out already, because if we go to John chapter 2, we find out there in John chapter 2, the first few verses, that the first thing Jesus did as a miraculous work when he came to earth was to turn water into wine. That was the signal of the beginning of his ministry. So Moses's freeing of the captives begins with turning water into blood. Well, wine is what Jesus will represent his blood with later on with his disciples. So he starts his ministry by turning water into wine. And then we go through and we watch him, instead of bringing plagues of disease, instead of bringing plagues by using the dust of the earth, he uses the dust of the earth to turn into mud and heal blindness on a man. And he cures disease. And he brings people food to eat. Instead of destroying the food of the land, he brings the bread of life for everybody. And then finally it culminates in 3 days of him being in the tomb, 3 days of darkness for the world, as it were. But that very death of the firstborn, which makes everyone free, that's what happens, that he uses, God uses through him to free all the captives everywhere from Satan's grasp. So the 10 plagues themselves tell the story, sitting right there for us to see. We'll talk again about Exodus tomorrow. Thanks.